Hello YouTube. I have a different kind of video for you today. This time I'll be discussing one movie. This movie is a movie I have lots of thoughts on, so I thought I could make a video on it. Don't worry about the Disney rankings though, because I'm still working on the next era, but in the next era there were a lot of movies, and I had to review a lot of them, so it kind of wore me out, so I decided to do something fun and different. Today we will be discussing the 1991 cult classic, Hook. The premise of this movie is of a grown-up Peter Pan returning to Neverland. He doesn't remember being Peter Pan though, so he has to train the Lost Boys to become him again. This is for him to rescue his kids from Captain Hook, who has taken them captive. This is a movie that came out in 1991 and was directed by Steven Spielberg. It got $300.9 million out of a $70 million budget, which was really good for the time. Some critics, though, the critic reception was very mixed. Some praised it and loved it, but some didn't like it at all and called it Spielberg's first terrible movie. But, however, there were some audiences who didn't like it too, but there were some who absolutely loved it, especially 90s kids. They have turned this movie into a cult classic, and I have a lot of love for it. So you may be wondering, why does a late 2000s kid care about this relatively obscure movie from 1991? Well, that's because of three reasons. For the first reason, I just have a very personal connection with Peter Pan after being in the play production of it and having great memories there. Two, I think what happened behind the scenes of this movie is really interesting. And three, I just really like this movie in general. So, with all that out of the way, I will start sharing my thoughts about this cult movie. First off, I should mention the casting of this movie. So let's see here. This is a 90s movie. What stars can we check off this checklist? Let's see. We got Robin Williams. We got Dustin Hoffman. We got Julia Roberts. Oh, don't forget Bob Hoskins. And, this movie is directed by Steven Spielberg. Check. And I've checked every star off of this list, haven't I? As you can see, Spielberg really pulled no punches of getting an all-star cast for this movie. So let's talk about who works and who doesn't. So first off, I don't think Robin Williams was the perfect choice for Peter Pan. I think he does the role of a certain Peter Pan well, but when you hear the name Robin Williams, you want to see him play more of the childlike Pan from the original movie, but it only happens at the end of the movie, and it's kind of disappointing, honestly. I think if Spielberg searched a little more, he could have found a better person to play Peter. But I think Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook is perfect casting. It's like no surprise the movie is named after him, because he is a really, really good villain, because he's intimidating. It's just a really good role. I also think Bob Hoskins does a very fun job with me. But I don't think Julia Roberts does a good job as Tinkerbell. I think this because she acts too kind, while the original Tinkerbell was supposed to be more sassy than anything like kind. So yeah, I think the people playing the Lost Boys are very talented child actors. Heck, you may even recognize one playing the main one as the boy who played Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you don't know who that is, all I will say is, that's rough, buddy. Okay. So, yeah. I think the person playing Peter's son does a good job as well. But I think the person playing Peter's daughter oversells her cuteness. So yeah, the casting in this movie is a very mixed bag. There are some very good roles and some very bad roles. But it works as a whole. Now as to what I think of the story, I think it's really good. I like this as a sequel to the original Peter Pan. It's probably a better sequel than Disney's sequel to Peter Pan. But I will admit there's a few problems. I think the first and last part of this movie are really good, but I find the second half of this movie tonally inconsistent. I find the stuff with Peter and Lost Boys more emotional and compelling, while the stuff with Hook and the kids is more comical and silly. I also think there are some unneeded scenes in this movie. For example, there's a scene with Peter and Tinkerbell that only moves Tink's character along, and she plays a very minor part in the movie, so it doesn't really affect a very important character, so you can cut it out. I also think there are some plot holes in this movie, like how did the pirates get all the way to London and then back to Neverland, but they have no way to fly? And also, why did someone who looked like Smee appear in London at the end of the movie? But This movie leads to a great climax because it's like this battle between the Lost Boys and the pirates, and they're like on two pirate ships. It is a really cool final battle, and in my opinion, it's a better final battle than the one in the Disney movie. I've never seen this movie is of Peter and the Lost Boys having dinner. I like that scene because it's very fun and it leads to this big food fight, which is very fun for a dinner scene. Kind of reminds me of that scene in Shrek 2, if you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I think the soundtrack's really good, although that's kind of expected from a movie composed by John Williams. I think the production design's really good, although that's kind of expected from Steven Spielberg. I just really like this movie. Overall, I think Hook is a really good movie with great heart, soundtrack, emotional moments, and characters. I would give it an 8 out of 10 by how much I enjoyed it, but I will admit there are some flaws, like the plot holes, some weak performances, and some unnecessary scenes. So, sadly, I have to give Hooks a 7 out of 10. But overall, I still really like this movie. I'd recommend it if you could have it anywhere. Or, I mean, this is on Netflix, but sadly got taken down. But you should watch it and see if you love or hate this one. Well, that was fun. This was a nice side video until we get to the next Disney era ranking. If you want to see what I'm talking about, check out my channel and see the other 4 Disney era rankings. But I made this kind of review in between every Disney era ranking because I really like reviewing all these different pieces of media that you may not know about. So yeah. But until then, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.